Hello everyone, my name is James Hurley. The character I currently play is Fenton Rivers. Basically, he is a private detective that works for the Bureau, and he also is psychic. He has very powerful mind powers, basically. He's kind of like Charles Xavier combined with Legion and other characters, but I won't go into full detail. Yes, I do. When I was very young, about, say, middle school, that's when I realized I had Asperger's, but my parents actually knew that from the very beginning, like ever since I was in elementary school, but at the time, it wasn't affecting my studies at school, but then by the time high school came in, that's when it kicked in really bad, so I was kind of like transferred to special ed classes, and it's just sometimes it's hard for me to understand when people are using all of these big words, especially with how society is right now, with all these kids making up these words I have no idea what they mean or anything. So I'm just a guy that likes to stick to basic English. Another factor that Asperger's has affected me in life is just basically my socialization with people. Sometimes if I'm engaging in a conversation with friends, but they're talking about the latest game or something that went bad in a relationship, I hear it, but I don't understand it, and there's just that part of me that wants to like say something ordinary to kind of like fit in to the conversation, but then sometimes I just feel like, nah, I'll just ignore this and just move on to something else. Find someone else who is not talking to somebody else and engage in a conversation with them. So honestly, Asperger's is more of me learning. It's just my struggle with socializing with people. Honestly, making friends. In some ways, yes, it is. Not entirely, but I guess with my inability to properly socialize with people, I think, yes, maybe that was what got me bullied in the first place, because when I would talk with people, it would just be about things that were common interest with just me. Because, in all honesty, I don't keep up with sports or anything like that, and that's like the number one thing all my friends talk about. So there were times where I was made fun of that, because people would be like, what, were you born under a rock, or some mean stuff like that. I wasn't really bullied that much in elementary school because my classes were very small, so, and a lot of the other kids that I was with had had their own share of disabilities, so I guess I could say they were also special ed classes. I definitely was picked on in middle school because in my mind, I'm trying to grow up quicker and become more, like the guys at my school, and because of my inability to socialize, it affected my efforts to try to act like the other guys at school, and that's how I got bullied. In high school, I wasn't made fun of at all. Honestly, in high school, that was just me trying to maintain a low profile, but peer pressure got in the way, and so I kind of like was all like, okay, now I gotta start being like everybody else again. To sometimes fight off my struggles with the Spurs, I kind of like to put myself in different places where I can just be myself and not worry about what the world wants me to think or say. Sometimes I can just do that by just typing up some stuff on Facebook or doing a video for YouTube, or just or sometimes kind of like speak to people, honestly, tell them about my problems, and because I have a lot of good friends out there that understand my condition, and they just want to be there for me, and try to make me feel as comfortable as I can be with just who I am, the way I speak, and everything. Not necessarily. Even when I found out about cosplay and kind of like wanted to get involved in that world, it didn't necessarily help me with my Asperger's because, kind of like how in school, there were still some people out there in the world of cosplay that mocked me for my inability to kind of like get into the flow with what they're doing and talking about. And not to mention, with some of the things that some cosplayers out there do that I don't agree with, it's really hard for me to kind of like socialize with these kind of people if I don't agree with what they're doing. I do humbly believe that God gave me this disability for a reason, to kind of like maybe in a way be an encouragement as I grow older to those who are struggling with it. Sometimes I do question to God, why can't I be like everybody else? Why can't I talk professionally or act professionally the way guys out there my age are? But as years went by, I realized that God kind of like was there for me, helping me understand that He wants me to talk the way He built me to talk, because in a way, the voice and the speech that He has provided me with, I believe will hopefully speak to others and draw them closer to Christ. That is a tough one, but I guess since I'm a fan of Star Wars, which is my #1 favorite film franchise of all time, I guess in a way, without the psychotic murderous tendencies of the character, I do believe I relate a lot to the character of Anakin Skywalker / Darth Vader, because, like Anakin, I have a dark side that we all do, honestly. I struggle with feelings for people like he does. I feel like that him and I have the same traits when it comes to compassion and emotion towards others, and that we feel like if things go bad, it's all on us, and it can drive us crazy sometimes. But in the end, even if I gave in to sin, because that's what he did. He gave in to the one thing that made it, that kind of hurt him, and it turned him into Darth Vader. But there's always that thing in life that can help you turn back and realize, to see the light of things, and that's what Vader did, and that's what I do every day. Sometimes I feel like it's both. Besides being the diehard fan of Star Wars, where sometimes if someone's saying a line that I know from Star Wars, and I'll say a line back to them, or or sometimes if I go to a certain event that's celebrating Star Wars, no doubt I'll join in with the crowd and cheer, and be that kind of thing. But then also at the same time, Star Wars is more than that for me. Star Wars is kind of like my life. It kind of reflects the things I struggle with in this world. It gives me a good representation of good and bad. There's like a whole list of what Star Wars is that is like that in my actual life. A while ago, like after Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith came out, and then after that, there was all these, like little short films and short stories that fans were now making that helped expand the Star Wars universe. I felt like maybe I should start getting involved, and I kind of like took some inspiration to create this Jedi character, which I later made into a gray Jedi later on, and I called him Penjai Zing. And that was actually a weird name that came out of nowhere. I do not have an accurate background as to where I came up with that name. It just popped in my head. Because I know that Jedi have their weird pronunciation of their last names and weird little symbols that interact with their first name. So I figured I kind of like put that together. And basically I just created him just to kind of like reflect who I am. I kind of like wanted to create him in different backgrounds. Like, I would write a separate story for him if he was in the prequel era, and then I would no doubt write a separate, like a different incarnation of him for the original trilogy. And this was all during the time before I even knew that they were going to make a sequel trilogy. But given how the new movies are going on, I don't think Penjai Zing would last in the sequels. But yeah, I just wanted to make him to kind of like not just fit in with the Star Wars fan base, but to create a character that I can be proud of. Someone who if I ever had the silly dream of turning into either a film or a book or a video game character, then hopefully he would speak out to other people. I feel like Fenton and I share too much in common. Well, except for the one fact that sometimes he'll just take an insult and feel hurt by it. That's not who I am. I'm a bit of a hard shell. If someone insults me, I just get back at them, which Fenton is slowly starting to do in the series, which I'm very proud of. But also, I like how Fenton and I have that thing where we feel neglected, we feel abandoned, we feel like people out there don't care about us, and so we're trying to do whatever we can to get involved in things that make us feel important to others. He's joined the Bureau and he's trying to use the powers that have made him miserable. He's trying to put them to good use. For me, I have these gifts with the internet business that I sometimes view as a curse, but I'm trying to use them to make a name for myself. I don't think it necessarily has affected my acting at all, because when I read a script, I just go with it. And sometimes I'll take some lines which I've done before and improvise, because I'm a movie buff and I kind of like to do these kinds of things. Sometimes I'll watch a clip on one of my DVDs and kind of like figure out how would I say the line different than the other character. I'd like practice in front of a mirror and just speak the lines and change it up, and that's what I do with my script. I'll read the line. If it doesn't sound like it's gonna flow right or sound human, I'll change it up a bit without trying to change the course of where the direction is going. So yeah, Asperger's doesn't really affect my acting at all, because I'm just really taking the words that I'm supposed to speak, and sometimes I'll speak them or change them up a bit. Actually, I think I do, because there have been some people who have somewhat bad feelings about that. They say that's very creepy and that's not going to give me a future. But then there have been some people that have been very supportive, like my family and my friends, who actually admire that photographic memory of mine. Like, I would probably say that, you know, ever since I was very young, like probably like 4 or 5, that's when I had that gift. Because, like, whenever my dad and I would watch Disney films together, I couldn't help but, like, after we would watch the film and we would hang out with my friends and his friends, I just speak random different lines from different Disney films, and everyone was just impressed with how I could say the lines articulately and without even missing basically I wouldn't miss a word, and I would speak it in the right emotion, and it stuck with me ever since. First and foremost, what I would say to those who struggle with Asperger's is to not try to be like the world. Don't try to feel like you are obligated to talk like other people or act like other people. Just be yourself, first and foremost. Secondly, if there are things that you like to talk about in life, but you're worried that others are going to discriminate you for that, then, well, first and foremost, they're not your real friends, so you need to just ignore those people. You need to build confidence in yourself. You need to do what I should have done a long time ago. You need to just find friends that are interested in what you like, because when you find friends like that, that makes your speech and talking much easier, because then you can relate with these people, you can be able to share common things. That's how, for me, when I met good, like for some of my good friends out there, it took me a while, but they came to understand who I am, and that's how I could finally talk to them about what I like. Now, no doubt, they got their own things out there in their lives that they like. That is none of your concern. You don't need to let what they like out there differentiate what you don't. So yeah, that's basically what I would say, is to not be like everybody else. Just be yourself, talk the way you want, and sometimes, if you're lucky, if you find people with strong connections to careers that share your common interests, it could take you somewhere, like it did me.